Good morning. Happy Monday, December the 18th, 2017. Wow, that lightning graphic, Bob, really is pretty amazing. Not gonna lie.
Having fun with graphics.
That's right. So we're gonna start the day with reminding everyone that you can follow us at Bob and Kevin Show on Twitter, and if you want to get a hold of us, that's kind of our official way. And then let's take a look at our current Twitter poll.
Oh, that graphic needs some love.
That's all right. It's all right. Let's see here. And let's review last week. Last week, it looks like we were a stout 6 votes, and it looks like younger than 8th grade actually wins the day. And if we were to look at today's poll, if I can pull the right levers here, it looks like, do you think ISPs will take advantage of consumers now that the FCC has dismantled net neutrality? So that's going to be a topic we're going to be investigating later on today.
And it appears that we already have a 33% turnout compared to last week's vote. So hopefully we'll eclipse that whopping 6 voters that we got last week.
Yes, that is amazing. So Bob, did you have a good weekend?
I had a very interesting weekend. We'll start out with, since we're in the holiday spirit, the Beatty bars are typically a 0 Christmas tree, or have been a 0 Christmas tree home as of late. But yesterday we came home with 2 Christmas trees.
Wow.
One for the main room, and my 18-year-old decided that it would be fun to get a Christmas tree for his own room, so he purchased his own Christmas tree.
So do you go natural or fake?
Oh no, these are both natural. So
really,
yeah. We've vacillated back and forth. Some years we did fake, some we did real, but we've been real as of late.
Yeah, we've actually, a couple years ago we made the transition from fake back to natural back to fake, just because we hate dealing with getting rid of the trees, and we typically have multiple trees, fake trees now, all over the house. As you can see, you've got some Christmas lights here, but people who know me actually know that these lights that you see back here are actually a permanent fixture 365 days of the year. So
I like it a lot. So we also had another interesting happy holidays type story. My basement flooded last night. So
what's so happy about that again?
It's not happy at all. I'm just trying to make lemonade. So we had the guy from Roto-Rooter come out, and whopping $468 later, there you go.
Very interesting. Okay, so
happy holiday.
Yeah, indeed. So did you do anything fun this weekend?
Nope. Actually, that was the fun was the Christmas tree decorating and the basement flooding. So really not so much fun at all on the end side of it. But how about you? What'd you guys do?
Well, I'm glad you brought it up. And here's the fun that I had this weekend, or so it seems. So I went to see Star Wars. I give it a 3.5 out of 5. And in case you are wondering, there may be spoilers in my commentary here. So yeah, just something we did this weekend with the boys. It was real fun, real exciting. But overall, I was actually pretty disappointed. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, your tweets left me wondering what the heck happened. Because I mean, I don't know if everybody knows who's watching, but I am not a Star Wars geek. So I do kind of live vicariously a little bit through my friends, and my Twitter timeline is filled with mixed reviews. So I'm very curious of where your stance is on this. Giving it 3.5, did you say?
3.5. So, and that's generous, honestly. I probably would have gave it less had I thought about it more before sending that tweet. I sent that. It was a visceral reaction that I sent. It was just a lack of storytelling. I think there's going to be a lot of false confirmation that Star Wars is doing great because of all the huge amounts of money that will be going into the pockets of those who own the intellectual property known as Star Wars. I just think from a storytelling standpoint, it was just not that well thought out. There was a lot of scenes that were redundant, a lot of characters that appeared out of thin air and then stole glory from other characters. we
Did Jar Jar come back?
Jar Jar did not come back.
Oh, okay.
We did. There's one of the what we thought was a main character is no longer with us, and we just kind of completely have no idea any backstory. We got no character development. We just got, this is a really powerful person. Okay, this person's dead. It was very much the shades of Darth Maul when that was introduced many years ago. All the great characters seem to just not, or the new great characters seem to just, we don't need a backstory anymore. We just need Flash. Captain Phasma, which is the silver, the chrome stormtrooper. I don't know if you've seen her in some of the promos. She looks cool, really, really badass, for lack of a better term. Goes nowhere. I mean, 2 movies now, there's just absolutely 0 point of making her awesome because she was given almost nothing to chew on there. So anyway, we do see some famous faces from previous movies. That, their performances weren't bad. It's just the story just tended to meander, didn't really go anywhere. Spoiler alert, there's a casino planet, and they spend a good deal of time on this casino planet. And then there's a bunch of visuals and kind of cheaply done. They kind of do a little intrigue with a certain character that they never do anything with. People will defend that as foreshadowing. And then really the whole casino scene ends up being completely pointless later on in the movie. There's a mutiny scene, which again turns completely pointless a few scenes later. So I think it's a lack of storytelling. I think Netflix and HBO creators have nothing to worry about in terms of accolades, but Star Wars will continue to make money hand over fist, and good for them.
So, all right, so this is your view as a 40-something-year-old man. How did the kids like it?
Oh, they all loved it, of course. Well, actually, my teenager was disappointed. 17-year-old disappointed. The 9-year-old, I had a couple of 9-year-olds with me, and they both loved it. It was just like, stuff blowing up, lasers, lightsabers. I mean, yeah, what's not to like when you're 9?
So do you think that's the long game, though? Do you think they're really just going for that new generation, the younger generation, to keep it going so that they have something nostalgic when they're our age?
Sure. I would say so. We'll continue to probably buy, some Lego merchandising that's Star Wars licensed and things like that. But, when I grew up, and maybe it's the same extent with you, maybe not, we had action figures, and action figures have kind of fallen by the wayside. So you stick a Star Wars logo on anything nowadays, and kids will say, Mom, Dad, buy me that backpack, buy me that pencil, or, for school. And so I would think that that's their play, because my money isn't. I'm not a direct demographic. I am the one supporting the direct demographics, which is probably the younger kids. So you're totally right. I'm just spiteful, and I want some really good written stuff, and I will never get that. I realize that, but we'll go back to whatever the next Star Wars is. Whatever.
That's so funny.
Yes. Okay, all right. Enough about Star Wars. Let's kind of move into our current tech news. And wow, gone very matrixy on everyone here. So let's take a look here at Bitcoin Pizza. This is the Twitter handle that makes us all wish we should have got into Bitcoin a lot longer ago. And if we had, perhaps we might have suffered the same fate here and bought a pizza for 10,000 Bitcoins. Anyway, there's a lot of money there.
That last post says what, 10 hours ago?
Yes.
And it was down yesterday, right?
Well, great segue, Bob. So it's currently trading at $19,000 US, and you can look at the chart there. It peaked over the weekend, I do believe, and as you can see by the chart there, 2017 has been very kind to Bitcoin, very kind to Bitcoin Pizza, and you're right. We still need to find out who is actually the owner of those 10,000 Bitcoins. In the lower right-hand corner.
So it looks like it's slightly down, or it must be on the uptrend because the ticker is saying 18.9, and that one I would probably say that that Coinbase chart is probably a little bit because we're only renewing every 17 seconds. So,
Yes.
but it's definitely trading high again today.
So I'm glad you brought up that little widget, for lack of a better term, in the right-hand corner there. So Bob made that for the audience because as we put our show together, when we put a Bitcoin value in the crawl down there, A, it gets lost, and B, it's so out of date almost as soon as we put that in there. And we also decided to add different currencies there. So expect more widgets and things like that. But yes, very, very cool, Bob. Kudos to you and all the cool wizardry that is going on here. And I think we're going to actually switch now to one of those serious segments that will try to be lighthearted and make it entertaining as well. And that is another thing that happened over the weekend, which is Friday. Net neutrality, Bob.
Yeah, so the vote was actually on the 14th, I believe, and basically what happened is net neutrality got dismantled. So 2015 legislation put together by the Obama administration that basically tried to guarantee free access, not for us as consumers, but free and unfettered access for companies so that everyone had access to the same speed lanes, things like that. So basically, the FCC repealed that. Some of the arguments that you will hear is, well, before 2015, we didn't have net neutrality, and what was the big deal back then? We'll get to that in a little bit, but one of the big takeaways from the vote is that almost instantly after the net neutrality was repealed by the FCC, several states stepped up to challenge it in court. So the FCC is being sued by a handful of states. Looks like New York State, Illinois, Oregon, Massachusetts, and Washington all have announced that they are suing the FCC. The Attorney General from Iowa also tweeted that they'll be consulting to join a coalition of 18 other states. So this is definitely not going anywhere quickly because there's going to be all kinds of pending lawsuits. And of course, California, in true sixth largest economy on the planet, they basically have said that they are going to write their own legislation over the course of the next 60 days to enforce net neutrality. Since they are a big enough bargaining entity, they can actually ensure that people that they do business with and contract with will uphold the standards of net neutrality. So when you're looking at entities as large as California, this is not going anywhere quickly. Now, this is where we're going to reference back to what I talked about on a previous episode of the show, time for everyone to put their tinfoil hats on. I believe, this is my personal opinion, that this throttling and pay-to-play lanes were already existing, but this kind of opens things up to give the potential to pass it along to the consumers. The graphic on the screen now shows an idea of what could be coming. You know, there's different packages through your ISP, and that's what relates to the poll on the our Twitter poll this week. Do you guys foresee the ISPs taking advantage and coming up with package bundles that are related to various services and about those speed lanes? But I'm going to even take it one step higher on the onion. I feel like this administration, one of their, actually, it's not even a hidden agenda, it's a spoken agenda item, is that the Republican Party and currently this administration wants to roll back a lot of regulations to the state level. And it appears like this ruling instantly brought that to light because we have so many states that are challenging it and basically coming up with their own regulations regarding this. Now, I don't know how that plays out on the internet, but I think another thing to bear in mind here is this decision is very much U.S. focused. We don't have the public utility internet like a lot of different parts of the world do. So this is just all very interesting times for sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure where. I mean, I'll tell you where I come down. I think the internet should be free, open, not throttled. I mean, and for selfish reasons, if I start a blog, do I now have to pay one or more or all ISPs for, hey, don't limit my bandwidth because I paid, Azure for certain horsepower, certain throughput, things like that, only to be throttled by an ISP, one I've never met. It's not even in my region. People out west maybe can't see my blog because Maybe I talk about something controversial, and the ISP has now stepped in to say, you know what, that doesn't help our business, so therefore we're actually going to limit access to this. Feels very China to me. I don't know about
And
you.
people have referenced that for sure. Nope, people have referenced that for sure. Is that this seems like a step backwards or a step toward true meaning of fascist regime. Another story over the weekend was the CDC and the 7 words that they can't talk about anymore. So we have an administration that is controlling language and supporting decisions that could be related to controlling language at a much larger level. I mean, that's definitely one of the avenues, rabbit holes you can go down when talking about net neutrality for sure.
So you mentioned a legal challenge by the states, and that's immediately what I thought of, because it won't take long before somebody says, hey, my First Amendment right here in America has been infringed by company X because they are limiting my speech. Now, I'm sure equal number of people, because this seems to be a red state, blue state issue, to me at least, an equal number of people will line up and say, well, it's not your, you want freedom, then create your own ISP, and that's how the system was designed. But if
right, that's super libertarian view right there for sure.
Yeah, so the barrier to entry there is, so yes, in order to have free speech, all I need to do is not worry about so much on my blog, just create a infrastructure backbone to connect to the high-speed internet. So yeah, that's all I got to do. So yeah, I think,
well, and that's a whole nother issue that you bring up that's very interesting with the infrastructure backbone. I honestly, once again, another opinion of mine, honestly feel like we, from an infrastructure standpoint, are starting to fall woefully behind the rest of the world. And I think yesterday's Atlanta airport power outage, not necessarily tech news, but, electricity powers technology, and you could loosely connect the two. We had a major, apparently world's busiest, they were voted recently, which is weird that they took that away from either of the Chicago airports, but basically crippled all day yesterday because of a power outage. I mean, we're talking the United States of America, and that's just bizarre to me.
Yeah, and I didn't realize there was such a turf war for airport accolades, Bob. So I'll mentally note that let's give Chicago its due.
They held the honor for a really long time. I'm not sure when Atlanta took it, but still, the fact that they were blacked out all day.
All right. So final word on the subject before we move on.
No, I just think that this is just another one of those sign of the times that. It's going to be an interesting next period of time to see where these things take us, and if any of this ends up helping, or if the writing on the wall is this is actually just not going to be any good for us at all.
All right.
Stay tuned.
Speaking of sign of the times, it's not often that a company makes a decision and then completely tucks tail and turns around and runs back. But that's what happened with Patreon. As you can see here, we messed up. We're sorry. We're not rolling out the fee changes. So after reading that blog, what I discovered with that was essentially, I don't think they're financially in a good spot, and they need to figure something out. And they were very candid in that blog post and said, well, we haven't figured it out yet either. So just because we're not doing this doesn't mean we're not going to do something in the future. But I do think it's commendable that they at least said, okay, got it. We heard you. Yeah, this sucks. Let's figure something else out. Bob, what say you?
My gut tells me that this is a really good PR move for them, and big tip of the hat and kudos for them to roll it back. But like as you started the segment by saying, they charge that fee for a reason. I mean, so yes, great PR for them. It'd be interesting to see if the number of Patreon patrons actually went up after that, or if people repatronized, or even to see if there was a depatronization. But if they can't figure this out and they end up going away, then that's a revenue stream that actually dries up for those contributors.
It turns out in that blog article, they did apologize because they said, we know you lost patrons and there's nothing they can say to get those back. So I I think the real problem is the $1 and the $2 patrons, because you know, when you add your 2.9% credit card fee and your standard fee of like 50 some cents or whatever it was, you know, you're almost left with nothing going to that contributor. And their fees are based upon not the aggregate, it's per donation. So it's 2.9% plus a fee on the $1, 2.9% plus the fee on the $5, and so on and so forth. So apparently most people who are contributing are in that lower tier of, well, I'll give you a few bucks, and most of that money isn't actually reaching, you know, the patrons. So I like the concept of Patreon. I wish more people would buy into it for content creators. However, this certainly doesn't bode well for the future if they can't make money doing this. It seems like there's got to be a ton of overhead if they're not making money and they have to make these changes. So yeah, I'm a little puzzled.
There are alternate services as well, right? I mean, not that I want to take focus away from Patreon here, but there, I mean, I'm unaware of what those other services are, but there's got to be competitive, you know, funding, you know, monthly pay funding services.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You know, you got your GoFundMe's, but and your Indiegogo and your Kickstarter. A lot of different models there, all or nothing models, one-time, you know, funding models, Patreons, and ongoing relationship. I'm not familiar with any or a bunch of ongoing relationship ones. So for me, that's where Patreon's like, oh, that's a little different. You know, we can spread this out over time and things like that. So, all right.
I guess couldn't you, I mean, really, if push came to shove, you could just set up a subscription, a PayPal subscription payment to a company, a content provider.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? And then you're looking at just your 2.9% or whatever the fee is. But it becomes, you take away the social element. You now have, I guess the idea of Patreon is they're trying to be your marketer for you. Then you have to be your own marketer. But I tell you what, if you're a top tier content creator, people will find you. And if you put out on your Twitter or something, so I suppose that's viable. It's more for like the people like us or the people like Umco and you know, the ones who are trying to do a grassroots and kickstart, sorry, poor choice of word, their content creating. I think it's them. All right.
So we're not doing a Patreon thing, but we do have I'm totally leapfrogging a couple things and segueing into our 250 campaign. We are trying to get to 250 subscribers. So if you're watching the show now or you're going to catch us on the on-demand feed, if you haven't clicked that subscribe button on the page, go ahead and do that for us because we're trying to get to 250.
Yeah, so YouTube has an algorithm just like everything else. So the more likes and subscribes we get and shares and views just in general, that makes us more visible in the search algorithm. We show up as suggested videos, etc. So when we do well, you know, it helps us, you know, continue doing this. So yes, Bob, great segue. And speaking of segues, we're going to focus on 2017, a year in review here. And so, pardon ahead of time for the length of this, but we had the iPhone X this year, and that made a big splash this year. And it promises new technologies. It has all this cool stuff baked into there. My wife doesn't have one of these. She has an older iPhone. The cameras on these things are quite amazing. And the kind of one of the big buzz items was the Face ID. And so it was an exciting year for tech. But Samsung struck back. If you haven't seen this video, we'll link to it. This is an amazing video. In fact, I'm an Android user myself. And this was just kind of a really good way to kind of counter the amazing marketing that Apple does. And if you haven't seen this one, it's definitely a good one. And they even addressed the infamous notch here. And Tom Fulton, coworker, he pointed that out to me. I'm like, I did not know that. So Netflix is a big deal at our house. They had a huge year. In fact, they put together a list of a bunch of content that was tops. And they mentioned that viewership is about 140 million hours a day, which equates to 1 billion hours a week. Mexico came in at the top as the most watched country. We'll provide a link to this really cool infographic here. I enjoyed shows like Ozark, Stranger Things 2, among other things. So Netflix is very big in my house, and I'm pretty sure it's pretty big worldwide. CBS launched their new pay service and with Star Trek Discovery on as their flagship item. You can actually watch this for free in the United Kingdom, but not here in America. Self-driving trucks is a thing. It might scare you. It might be a great thing. Here in Indiana, it's our top profession. So does this mean all those people will be replaced? Will resistance come? Will this be a great thing? Quantum computing. Oh my gosh. There's actually SDKs now where we're going to do quantum computing. This is becoming a reality. Cryptocurrency mania. Bob and I even created a widget in the bottom right there. This is a thing, whether it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin. You know, that was a huge thing in 2017. Tweets. Oh my gosh. Twitter remains to be a juggernaut. And President Obama actually had the top, or 3 of the top 10. And then half of all tweets all time came, or retweets, came in 2017. And this is the number 1. It's chicken nuggets with Wendy's. If you're not following the Wendy's handle, it's just great. It's a great thing to listen or to watch. But I think we're in the 3.5 million retweet range. President Obama hasn't gone away. And in fact, he has one of the most popular tweets of all of 2017, which is almost of all time. IoT became a big deal this year. There's the Things Network here, which exemplifies that. You know, we're becoming a connected society. 280 characters, good or bad? Well, there's at least one user who really appreciated the increase in characters, and I think some of you may know who this particular personality is here. And then we got to go to the United Kingdom. We got invited to something called Off-Road Co-Garden, which we also went to UK Fest. We got to make all kinds of cool videos. This was very fun. We got to show the world what happens behind closed doors in the Umbraco community, as you can see there. It was a very, very fun time. I made the trip up to Batavia, Illinois with Bob, and we basically talked Umbraco over really hot, spicy wings. It was really fun. I think we'll do it again, probably next year. And then for me, the actual most exciting thing was the total solar eclipse. Now, this is non-tech. This is just like a, hey, what was your best moment of 2017? This is footage that my son shot, and we were in the path of totality. It's just such a surreal experience. It'll happen right where I live in about 7 years. I totally recommend you make an event of it. We totally will. And that is the 2017 year in review. So, Bob, I'm going to hit you real quick with a question here. And that is, what was your standout moment of 2017? Doesn't have to be tech related, it could be anything.
There's so many things that did stand out, and you hit on a lot of them in your video as well. I'd love to travel, and I love meeting new people and new experiences. So obviously the trip to the UK this fall was one of those highlights. But you know, just basically this year for me was a year that I discovered that I had an abundance of free time now that my kids are getting older. So I needed to discover some new hobbies. So I've been really exploring, you know, just different ways to spend my time and to enhance my creativity, as well as just kind of get me away from the workplace. And the stuff that you and I have been doing with some of this content creation has given me a chance to be creative with technology, obviously with the extending that we're doing with the OBS studio, and then the content creation through the podcast, just getting to sit down and have conversations with people that I've known for sometimes, you know, more than half my life, and just sharing those conversations with other people. So I would say the highlight of 2017 for me is just kind of reigniting some creative sparks. I think that's been the best part.
Okay, and it looks like we are having some show technical difficulties here.
Uh-oh, did we freeze?
Hopefully we're going okay here online. I'm showing that we have a pretty low bandwidth here, so be careful here as we vamp. We have this recording locally, hopefully, so if it's terrible, we shall return with a vengeance there. Okay, moving along here, Bob, or at least maybe I can ask a follow-up. Actually, we're just gonna move on here. So, Bob, we're going to go ahead and promo one of your side projects here, and it is called My Friends Are Amazing. Bob.
So that was actually a good segue because I talked about the creativity aspect of 2017 for me. Let me pull up some notes here. Just to catch everyone up, we recorded episode 8 last week with the amazing John Coulter. That guy's got some crazy stories that are actually 100% true. So I would encourage everyone to check out that episode if they haven't. And the week before, I had my 16-year-old daughter on the show. Some people might think that sounds weird, but it was really a great conversation. And she's actually quickly climbing the charts to be one of the all-time listens for me so far. So if you're interested in getting into the head of someone growing up in today's world, it's definitely worth a listen. So I should have another fun episode this week. So we'll be looking for the show to launch late Thursday, or check it out early Friday, because I usually put them up late night Thursday night. You can check the podcast out on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and TuneIn Radio. And you can also just go onto Google and do a search for My Friends Are Amazing podcast, and boom, put it on your podcast listening tool of choice and subscribe. Thanks.
All right, Bob, do you know what time it is?
Is it my favorite time?
It is your favorite time, and that would be quiz time.
Oh, I've got a goodie for you this week. So for those of you that are new to the show, Kevin and I take turns from week to week asking each other 3 questions on any topic that we choose individually. Last week, Kevin totally beat me up on internet trivia or technology trivia. I went 0 for 3. And so this week, in the spirit of the season, I decided that we would go with Elf trivia.
Oh, man. Okay.
Have you watched the movie Elf?
It's one of my wife's favorite. I've seen it a handful of times. We'll see.
Debatably the best Christmas movie of all time.
Okay.
So here we go. We're going to start out easy. True or false? Did Will Ferrell actually eat all the candy that his character portrayed as eating in the movie?
I'm going to go with he's his own stunt eater, so I'm going to go with true.
Yes, the answer is true. Actually, it's reported that Will suffered headaches throughout filming because he actually ate all the sugary foodstuffs in the Elf food pyramid on camera. So there's probably just tons of cutting room floor footage of him consuming sugary sweet candies, everything that's on the pyramid. So, all right, good job. You got that one right. Okay, this one, a little more obscure. So do you remember when Will Ferrell's character first met the store manager at the toy store?
Maybe.
All right. So what was the name on that male toy store manager's badge?
I have no idea. Let's just cut to it. I have no idea.
The store manager at Gimbal, the name on his badge was Wanda.
Wanda. Yeah. Not even on my radar. I would have never guessed.
All right. So here we go. So you're 1-1. So this one is an interesting one. We'll see how this one goes. How long, you're just probably going to have to, I could give you an A, B, or C. How long was Buddy's burp in the scene where he was having dinner with his newly found birth father and family? Was it A, 3 seconds long, B, 12 seconds long, or C, 28 seconds long?
I'm going to go with B, total guess. Final answer.
And it was 12 seconds long. Buddy's 12-second belch was supplied by voice actor Maurice LaMarche, best known for his cartoon character The Brain from Pinky and the Brain in 1995. He was and also did the operatic belching in Animaniacs in 1993. Have you seen any of those?
Some question mark.
So here ends the Elf trivia for the day, and you got 2 out of 3. So nice job.
Yeah, Wanda. I'll have to, I'll probably always remember that now, and I'm sure we'll watch it again before the season's over. So
yeah, we just watched it this weekend, so I figured that would be my my trivia.
All right, very good. Which will take us now to this week's Umbraco update. Alrighty, Bob, and you know what? We're gonna start out with a little bit of breaking news, I do believe. Yes, we've got cool toys here at the Bob and Kevin Show.
And we do have some breaking news. These are sources that I cannot confirm, but they are very reliable sources. We have some information about the upcoming Umbraco US Festival. It used to be known as U West Fest, but as everyone knows, Umbraco is trying to get their festival branding all in line, and the United States is actually following suit with that. The scoop or the breaking news is that the event will be happening this year, and it will be happening in August, and it will be happening in the greatest city in America, Chicago. So that's good news for Kevin and I because we're both very local to that. I was actually able to get some insider info on the branding, which you just saw. So stay tuned after the holidays. There should be an official announcement, but you heard it here first on the Bob and Kevin show that it's going to take place in August in Chicago.
All right, Bob. As you can see here on the screen, we have some images. I'm not sure where we got these from, except I know where I got them from, but I don't know where they came from before that. So it looks cool. I'm excited if it indeed will be Chicago. It's a 3-hour drive for me, and even though you live in the area, it's probably still a 3-hour drive for you.
It's much faster by train, without a doubt. But I'm sure I will be spending time in the city that week, not driving back out because, as you know, all the fun stuff happens in and around those great Umbraco festivals.
All right, and it looks like we have some more Umbraco news from out of the Cogworks.
Yeah, so you know, as everyone is doing around this time of the year, they're doing their best ofs, and you know, there's the Umbraco 24 days in. Well, our friends over at the Cogworks did 12 Umbraco packages. They're Christmas miracles. It's a great blog post. We'll put a link to that in the show notes. Some of the highlights are Kevin Jump's translation manager, Nexu, created by Dave Westenboer. I'm sure I just butchered his name. Sorry, Dave. Publication Queue. Kevin Jump, I think, had one of the best years of package making in recent history. He's been all over the place. Examine File Indexer and the Diplo Tracelog Viewer. Been around for a long time, but made the top list for Cogworks. They have a couple other packages that they've made, like SiteLock. So you guys should definitely check out this blog post. There's some great packages that you may not have heard of in this list, but they made their top 12. Slack Health Check is another good one. So not to be confused with the Cogworks Health Check, but the Slack Health Check notifications is a good one. And of course, Nested Content from Umco is rounding out their top 12. So check that out. It's a good one.
Very good. All right, Bob, we do have some additional news. We are off for Christmas, which falls on a Monday this year, so we are taking that day off. However, we will be back here on New Year's Day. Come lack of sleep, hangover, or whatnot, we would like everyone to join us for that day. You're probably not working, so no
Bring in the New Year with us bright and early here in the U.S.
That's right. And I think that takes us to our end here. Bob, what say you here? You get the final word.
Just want to reference back to the creativity and probably stick our flag in the ground a little bit of one of the reasons why Kevin and I are doing the show. He can chime in and confirm or deny. But I think one of our objectives is to have fun and continue learning. And working with OBS Studio, we've been able to dive into a piece of open source software and figure out ways to extend it. And we've figured out ways to extend it that are right in our wheelhouse of web development. So, the ticker widget at the bottom, which is pulling in a live headline feed from a very reliable source, TechCrunch, I believe, is where we're pulling it in from. And then the crypto values widget, even the date widget in the top. So we're learning how to bring in tons of dynamic content, and we're really sharing the load. So just wanted to give us a shout out to ourselves and a little kudos to each other for A, having fun, B, learning how to provide journalistic content, and to put our nerdery magic skills together to develop some fun stuff for the show as well.
All right, let's bring back the house music here, and then we're going to end the show with some amazing graphics here. Thanks for watching.
Bring the lightning.